Thanks for coming by for another Full Build Friday, where I'm remastering a character per the votes cast here and on the Patreon. However, after recently building Twisted Fate, I want to make sure that we're looking at a new sort of build. So for this remaster, we're shuffling the deck to deal out a build for Gambit from Marvel Rivals.
You know how long I've been waiting for this? Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Before we begin, we're now on Patreon. You can get videos and monsters 3 weeks early there, as well as unique items and extra content. Even a little bit helps us go a long way. Before we step to the table, let's load our dice and mark our cards with some build goals. The Gambit of Marvel Rivals has the typical background of a Cajun from Louisiana who grew up on the streets before he was found by the Thieves Guild. Following his criminal lifestyle, he found family and friends among the X-Men and became one of their valued members. Naturally, as one of them, he's a mutant whose power allows him to charge objects with kinetic energy that leads to oft explosive results. His favorite objects are playing cards, which is reflected in his kinetic card's primary attack. He throws them in an arc that hurts foes and heals allies. Bayou Bash as his alternate fire involves him charging up his staff before slamming it against the ground to unleash a shockwave that once again damages foes and heals allies. Keeping it regional, his Cajun charge is a simple dash that can have 2 charges to it. He builds up stacks of sleight of hand that let him swap between decks with different abilities. His Healing Hearts deck can fire healing cards that bounce between allies, or use Purifying Pickup to create healing in a burst, while also purifying allies and removing effects on them. Alternatively, the Breaking Spades deck has a damage boost, and its explosive trick is a blast that inflicts reduced healing. It can also fire a Bidding Barrage in an arc that launches enemies upward while damaging them. That just leaves his Ragin' Royal Flush, which empowers him and an ally with healing, purification, increased movement speed, and explosive attacks. That gives us a bit of a weird take on Gambit. The healing aspects come from his own obscure kinetic-fueled regeneration, applying it to others, but he does still have his classic explosive cards. This culminates in a bit of a stance system as he switches between hearts and spades, so we will want an adaptive build here. Outside of healing, he can charge up his allies with some extra effects, and can also remove conditions afflicting them with his purification powers. We have some mechanical purpose behind using the human ancestry for this build, but I found Gambit to be a little lacking on skills on my first pass through. To help that out, I had him take the skilled heritage to gain training in thievery, and then he also takes natural skill to become further trained in deception and diplomacy. Gambit's a charmer, which makes these some good gets. And then he takes his ability boost to dexterity and charisma, benefiting all the skills we've taken at our first stop. I think the criminal background is a rather obvious choice that fits in with his rearing among the Thieves Guild. In addition to making him trained in stealth, it gives him underworld lore, and if that wasn't enough, it also comes with experienced smuggler, helping him to always keep an ace up his sleeve. Then, matching his ancestry, he takes his ability boost to dexterity and charisma to be the smooth criminal that he's always been. The range of Gambit's abilities in this case is certainly a stacked deck, and to represent all of it, we're actually going to have to use a casting class. Keeping cognizant of his charisma, we'll be building him as a Sorcerer, which I do actually really like using for mutants. I'm by no means married to the idea, but I think it's a good way of representing the X gene. Now Gambit's Sorcerer potency will enhance his damage or healing, suiting his hearts and spades, and we'll further use the Imperial Bloodline for Gambit, mainly because I was looking to harness the arcane spell list, and I like the granted spells of this option over the other arcane bloodlines. Also, that Ancestral Memories focus spell is pretty sweet, and we can combo that with options such as Telekinetic Projectile, which is how we'll mainly be representing his kinetically charged cards to start with. I'm also looking at Gale Blast as an emanation effect inspired by his Bayou Bash, which does come with a bit of a shockwave to knock away foes. When it comes to first rank spells, Force Barrage hails from our bloodline, while Starfinder's supercharged weapon could be important for representing the damage boost from his Ragin' Royal Flush, though he also has a habit of playing his cards in an arc, so a cone effect such as Pummeling Rubble or one of the many other effects could easily be flavored to suit this concept. Our Sorcerer's bloodline does provide us with training in Arcana and Society, leaving our scant skill selections going to Acrobatics and Athletics, just to mix in a bit of his own physicality. On that topic, his ability boosts are going to Strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. that charisma will be important for the sake of his spells, whereas his use of throwing cards requires some dexterity, with strength helping his damage just a bit. We will want to get at least one more boost to his wisdom before too long, because that will actually play into this build. Second level might look a little familiar as we shuffle a rogue dedication into the deck, providing us with surprise attack and training in the performance and survival skills. This also grants him a skill feat to go with the one that he was already going to get this level, which will both be for his thievery skill. Pickpocket will be handy outside of combat, whether he uses it to earn some money or for greater purposes, while Dirty Trick is a good option to use in combat, and can be utilized to set up foes for his reflex save targeting spells. At third level, we slip signature spells into the stack to secure empowered options down the line, before we take a skill increase to become an expert in stealth. Fleet as a general feat enhances our speed, which is always useful for a character investing in stealth, and then we're looking at second rank spells. Honestly, the fact that the Imperial Bloodline gives us Dispel Magic is pretty huge, as we can actually use this to purify our allies of debilitating effects, as long as they were caused by a spell or something similar. Keen Axes then is a fantastic buffing spell that we can actually find on the arcane list, and you also might look at Exploding Earth based on the detonation of his cards. For the time being, we are using Telekinetic Projectile to throw Gambit's cards, or just leave ourselves as charging up other options. Since that is the case, we are going to take Bespell Strikes at level 4 here to properly represent his ability to charge and empower his weapons. We do still capture the heart of the cards with Fane's Escape as our skill feat, letting Gambit use a 52 pickup to cover his escape, which is appropriate for a Crook and Card Sharp combined. Our opening hand for level 5 features ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. As a Sorcerer, he gains Magical Fortitude, and then his skilled heritage comes in clutch as he becomes an expert in deception and thievery alike. The Confident Actualization Ancestry feat feels like the right card to add to the mix for this cocky Cajun card sharp, and on that topic, there's a spell at 3rd rank called Nothing Up My Sleeve. I'm unsure of its actual usefulness, but it's certainly thematically appropriate, whereas the Haste spell from his Imperial Bloodline is a great fit for the speed up of his ult, and Blastback could also possibly work for his Bayou Bash. We do get one hell of an ace up our sleeve with Basic Trickery at 6th level for Fane's Forbry, giving Gambit the means of dealing out a damaging deck. We can also accompany that with Kiss It Better, which I feel fits fantastically with Gambit's role as a healer and his nature as a consummate charmer, even if Rogue truly has his heart. We up our ante with level 7's Expert Spellcaster, and skill increase that makes us a Master in Thievery. Through Incredible Initiative, we'll take the lead in battle, and can also include unfettered movement from his 4th rank spells, further representing his ability to purify his allies of effects that are locking them down. Level 8 then steps up to the table with Detonating Spell, permitting us the ability to resemble the explosive nature of his cards with the likes of Telekinetic Projectile or other single target spells that you sling. We'll then double down with Quiet Allies, referencing the team player nature he's picked up as one of the X-Men, and helping them to infiltrate the layers of villains and the like. With level 9, we've got a winning hand, though it starts simply enough with a class feature that will make us an expert in reflex, and a skill increase that will make us a master in stealth. However, we can follow that with multi-talented for the Mystic Dedication, which is admittedly a little minor to start with. For now, it will make him trained in his connection skill, and I would probably take a look at the healing connection to become trained in medicine. We do also get some cantrips, but that's not quite the reason I went for this. I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest for now, and not quite reveal my hand just yet. I will say though, Blink Charge from his spells could be another way of dealing out his Cajun charge. But I do also like Geyser for its ability to launch enemies skyward, per his Bidding Barrage. That being said, the launch that this ability features does seem a bit minor compared to what our Geyser does. Starting out for level 10, we'll draw ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Wisdom, and Charisma. We immediately put our Mystic Archetype into play with Vitality Network, providing Gambit with the ability to transfer Vitality. A host of Gambit's abilities in-game provide both healing and damage, and that's honestly a little difficult to represent. But through this, we'll be able to use 2-action damaging effects and then also have a ranged healing effect that he can use with his final action. I think it's a solid strategy, but be sure to let me know what you think. We also have Swift Sneak here, letting Gambit make the full use of his fleet enhanced speed while he's sneaking, to truly establish him as a master sneak thief, given his relation to the Notorious Thieves Guild. Our 11th level is a little stacked, with features as Gambit gains expertise of perception and with his weapons, while also becoming a master in deception. I'd like to represent his own enhanced regeneration with fast recovery, but we will have to settle for robust health, because his constitution isn't quite high enough for the former. Earth and Sky could also possibly represent his ability to launch foes upward, but again, it's on a much grander scale than what he actually does. This build brings in a bit of a bridge as we take a cross-blooded evolution at level 12 to tap into the Psychopomp bloodline. You could also consider the Angelic bloodline for what we're looking to do, but I think this fits in with his time as Apocalypse's Horseman of Death, and it can also potentially be activated to deal some extra damage, representing his charging. We've also got foil senses for his skill feat, providing him with a way to get around the pesky enhanced senses possessed by the likes of Wolverine, Sabretooth, and the many others like them. Lucky level 13 comes with defensive robes, weapon specialization, and a skill increase to become an expert in religion. As I mentioned at the top, I do actually like the Imperial Bloodline focus spell, so I would also grab Inner Wellspring as his ancestry feat, providing us with a way of using it twice in a single fight, even though we don't have the extra focus points for it. Spell-wise, you could go for a true target to bet on your buds, but I'm a little iffy on that idea overall. It is rather late in the game, but for the sake of the character, I do actually like propelling sorcery as an option for Gambit, giving him a way to step while casting a spell to resemble his Cajun charge. It's minor and there are likely better options, but I think this works for the character. And sticking with that idea of speed, there's also Quick Unlock as his skill feat, so that he can crack a safe just as quick as he cracks a deck. Through our 15th level, we'll gain ability boost to Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma. While we become a Master Spellcaster, he also becomes a Legend in Thievery. Feather Step will be handy to use alongside his propelling sorcery, and then there's some solid spells here, but none that actually super stand out to me. For Gambit Sweet 16, we see Sneak Attacker as his class feat, to help make him a bit more of a rogue. You could probably find some better feats, but I kind of felt a little bad about not going rogue for him, and this is my attempt to fix that. Also along these lines is his Legendary Thief skill feat. It feels like an obvious pick for the likes of this Cajun crook, especially given his past with the Thieves Guild, even if those skills aren't as relevant among the X-Men. Perhaps a bit strangely given the character, Gambit gains Majestic Will at 17th level, as well as a skill increase that will make him a Legend in Stealth as well. We'll follow the Confident actualization from earlier with Persistent Confidence at this level, which honestly suits him fantastically as a character. Confidence is key to this crafty Cajun. After all, he set his sights on the woman whose extended touch means literal death. Looking at level 18, we add a greater cross-blooded evolution to our Gambling Gumbo, and use this to tap into some of the Psychopomp granted spells. Of particular note here is Heal, which can be used to produce the radial heal of his Bayou Bash. Take other spells from this at your leisure, that's just the one that I really liked. Now, in addition to that, we do obviously have to take Legendary Sneak, matching that Legendary Thief we already have to make this Bourbon Street braggadocio built for burglary and beyond. Level 19 is in the cards with Bloodline Paragon, Legendary Spellcaster, and a skill increase that also makes him a Legend Deception, giving us that triumvirate of subterfuge skills. Given his natural agility, I do think that we should have Gambit's reflexes be a bit higher, so we will draw upon Canny Acumen for his reflex saves, letting us get that up to Master Proficiency. You could also have done this with the Rogue's Evasiveness feat, but that would have cost an actual class feat. It's the last hand, so get your final bets in as we take ability boost to Strength, Dexterity, Intelligence, and Charisma. That increase to Intelligence wins him some training in Intimidation, and then we'll use Bloodline Conduit. You don't really ever see Gambit running out of his ability to supercharge items, and his dash in-game has 2 charges, so you can use this feat to save a use of Blink Charge, or something else actually pertinent to the character. For our final play then, we'll take Legendary Troll. Gambit certainly appreciates messing around, and I do like this one in particular, since it inflicts the off-guard condition on foes, which means that he can trigger a sneak attack against them. That all makes for a pretty potent character that comes with a wide range of options. Honestly, he might be one of the most versatile characters I've made in a while. You have quick healing from your Mystic and its Transfer Vitality, we've tapped into Dispel Magic with his Bloodline to remove the effects of enemies, and he's a good user of Umbral Graft, and he's got damage aplenty through his spells and Sorcerer's potency. Figuring out when to do what will honestly be the hardest part of playing such a character to his full potential. But again, that Transfer Vitality as a single action at range will be very handy to mix in with your damaging spells to turn the table for your entire team. Obviously, a free Archetype game would help us fill out our other picks much quicker. We might actually use a Rogue Archetype to take Evasiveness, or Advanced Trickery for the likes of Quick Draw and Magical Trickster. You could also use its Skill Mastery to bump up his Religion skill, so that he can pick up basic Mystic spellcasting and tap into more of its spells, though mostly ones that provide more support options. Outside of simply taking more Sorcerer feats, you could also consider a Psychic Dedication to work into side development, as Telekinetic Projectile is one of the best ways to represent his charged cards, and this can enhance that. The deck is spent and the hand's been dealt. Are you all in or about to fold? Let's review and find out. Remy LeBoux, best known as Gambit, is a skilled human sorcerer of the Imperial bloodline and a slightly less glamorous criminal background. This references his time with the Thieves Guild, while team-based options such as Quiet Allies are meant to call to mind his closeness with the X-Men. Perhaps the clearest way to represent his ability to charge up items with kinetic energy is through his Bespell weapon, but you do have some other options for that, such as Telekinetic Projectile or Detonating Spell. In-game, these kinetic cards are launched in an arc to hurt foes and heal allies. To use cards as a weapon, you'll need the Rogue to pick up Fane's Forbury, while Transfer Vitality can be a single action to quickly resemble a healing card. For his alternate fire of Bayou Bash, having him wield a staff is easy enough, and then just find an emanation spell that suits your fancy, such as the Gale Blast cantrip. You could also consider more spells to cover his Cajun Charge, such as the similarly named Blink Charge, or you could just use Propelling Sorcery Blood Magic to slip in some extra mobility. In regards to his Healing Hearts deck, Transfer Vitality doesn't have the Flourish trait, so it can be used multiple times per turn to resemble his bouncing cards. Meanwhile, the likes of Dispel Magic and Unfettered Movement will cover its purifying effects. The Breaking Spades deck comes with some extra damage, befitting his Bespell weapon or Sneak Attacker, while the Detonating Spell or other burst options fits for his Explosive Trick. Similarly, we can look at Cones for his Bidding Barrage, and launch people skywards with the likes of Geyser or Earth and Sky. With that all said, we've kind of already covered the healing and purifying aspects of his Raging Royal Flush, but for the other components of it, we'll look at Haste and Supercharged Weapon to fill his friends with Vim and Vigor. This captivating kick-ass Cajun casts a cavalcade of cards in combustive catastrophes, while this case of a classic con can complement companions with convalescence and conjured capabilities. Let me know what you think of the build, and what other sorts of builds you want to see. If you dig what I've done, let me know with a like and a subscribe. I want to give a big thanks to the folks on the Patreon, with a special shout out to the Orc Overlords, that being Decaffeinate, Shy Benster, and Vorthis. You too could head on over there for early access to the vids and some extra content. Either way, thanks for watching and have a fantastic Friday.
Got a full deck. Allons-y.